dad jokes. I thought that might have been why he invited me back, because they're so bad. But thanks, Judith. So some people went snooping and found some photos, so I thought we might run through some of those, and then we'll hand over to Stephen Packer, who's going to do the formal speech on behalf of the DHB. So Murray's a bit like the whole health system. He's changed a number of times. I had a bit of a crawl through his file looking for juicy bits of info, but I thought this was a good reminder of all the various iterations of health and the structures we've had over the years. And of course the ID badges have changed as well. This was Murray on graduation. The scary part was he started medical school the year I was born, which was last century. We did change the curtains when we upgraded the hospital, which was a good thing. And notice the bottle of wine carefully being gripped in one hand. It must have been a brutal night on call. Well, we can't talk about DHB life without some of the miscreants, CEOs we've had over the years. Couldn't find any photos of Anthea or Mary Bonner, so they've got no digital footprint at all, but so they must have been quite a long time ago. But Murray's outlasted them all. Well, our current CEO is still here. So, these people make our lives interesting, but it doesn't really matter as we just keep coming to work and delivering the care we need to do. Oh. Now, of course, people sent me photos with no descriptions. Kim Snoop, do you know anything about this? Oh, you're not here, okay. So I think this is okay, excellent. Thank you for the info. That looks like surgeons having a dinner. Breakfast. Oh, look at that, excellent. And this cat is called Murray/Muzz. One of the registrars named the cat after Murray. Murray does know this bit of information. And this is only appropriate because Christmas is approaching. Thank you, Josie, for supplying this. We may need some help distributing the gift baskets to staff on Wednesday if any of you two are around. But, after 40 years in the system, he's not going to retire. And he's got a new venture to go on to with the charity hospital. And so thank you for the 40 years with the DHB, and really look forward to what you're going to do with the charity hospital. You've got some skills there. And I know he's got some skills, because, bear with, not that I got his whole file, because it was 2 large files, but anyway. But there was nothing dodgy in there at all, really. But I have evidence that he actually attended a health services management course, so he has dabbled in the dark arts. And of course, like any good surgeon, he popped off overseas and got some experience over there. And back in 71, he was a house surgeon at Southend Hospital, and he came back. Now, one juicy piece of information was that he has actually worked in Gore when there was a hospital there. So I thought that was a little bit of gold gleaned out of the archives. So many years. And he was employed as an anatomy tutor. How was that for you, Murray? Was that good fun?
It was great.
And then, of course, he's been in the CD role from 1996, and he actually applied for it by the looks of it, as opposed to having a gun put to his head. So well done, you. And then, I think one of the things that was relevant to the times now, this was in 1992 to Bev O'Kane, the manager of surgical. They were having rostering problems. So things don't change over the decades. And he was just raising the concerns about the pressure on the team and how to sort that out. So it's just business as usual as the years roll over. So that's all I could find, nothing else. Immaculate record. Fantastic. Right. I would now like to ask Stephen up. Now, do you want to stand here? There's a mic. Okay.
Well, Murray Vincent Pfeifer. It's a name with a great ring in it, isn't it? Gives me great pleasure, and I count it a great privilege to speak for the DHB at this retirement function of my good friend and colleague Murray. Many of you will have been at the recent Southern Excellence and Service Awards and applauded Murray's 40 years of continuous service at Southland Hospital. Well done, Murray. But there's more. Wait, there's more. Murray started his medical and surgical career as a house officer in December 71, as Tim has said, having just graduated the week before. So that makes it now 49 years since you graduated. 49 years in 1 week, and probably 49 years almost to the day since you started working as a house surgeon. And apart from some brief interruptions, he's worked his whole professional life in Southland. But wait, there's more. Did you know that Murray was a Westie? Murray grew up in Auckland. He was a Westie. He went to Kelston Primary School, he went to Kelston Boys, or Kelston College, and was there when it split to become Kelston Boys and Kelston Girls, because it was too big to be all together, or was it too dangerous? I'm not sure in the 60s.
Probably got worried when I arrived.
Anyway, we can forgive Murray for that error of judgment, or perhaps it was his parents' error, in being born a Westie, because he did see the light, and he came first of all to Dunedin, to medical school. He couldn't go to medical school in Auckland then because there wasn't one. And then he moved even further away, as far as he possibly could from Auckland, and made that his home. So I think he can be forgiven. He's become a Southlander by choice. It looks like he might stay here for the rest of the day as well, apart from the time when he's travelling in his motorhome. And there's 3 months of that coming up, sort of starting next week, I believe. He has immersed himself in the Deep South. He's made it the place of his life's work and has become an integral part of the Southland surgical scene of the wider community. An abbreviated CV, Curriculum Vitae, Lessons of Life. Is that what it means? Not sure. Anyway, we've mentioned the primary school, secondary school education, medical school, graduating December 71. Well, pretty good. House officer in Kew, as it was then, December 71 through 73. And then he did, as I had done some years before, I went back to medical school, to the anatomy department, to bone up on bones and other things to pass the Part 1 primary, and he did that. Then he was taken onto surgical training, had 3 very good years in Southland, and then in December 77 came up to Dunedin. And this is where our paths first came together. I'd been appointed in August 77 to a position in the surgery department at Dunedin Hospital. And although Murray wasn't my registrar, he was one of the team of registrars in our department for that year. And at the early the following year, he passed his fellowship and became, lost the doctor, became Mr. Pfeifer, as he's been ever since. So then he headed off to the UK, and I discovered just the other day that he worked in a hospital in North Shields, on the north bank of the River Tyne, opposite South Shields, in Preston Hospital. And the surgeon he worked with there was one John Black. Now, John Black had been a surgeon. He was an Irishman. He had worked on the West Coast. He then came to Dunedin, and he worked as Alan Clark's senior lecturer there. But then, for some reason, returned rather suddenly, I think it was, and unexpectedly back to the UK. And in his train went the theatre charge nurse from the West Coast, who'd followed him to Dunedin, and she followed him back to the UK, and they sort of lived happily ever after. Murray worked with him and described him as a man who could do pretty much everything, and he really was a tiger of a surgeon, and did a huge amount, and I think many of Murray's skills were developed and honed as he worked with John Black there. He thought to stay on in the UK for a bit longer, but he had an invitation from Dr. David Livingstone. Now, that was the superintendent of Southland, or Kew Hospital at the time, not the missionary that got lost somewhere in Central Africa. That was the previous century. But anyway, David Livingstone wrote to Murray and asked if he could come back, and if he did, would he mind going first of all to work at Gore, because they'd lost the surgeon at Gore and needed somebody to continue to provide surgical services. So his first appointment for the Southland Hospital Board was as surgeon superintendent of Seddon Memorial Hospital in Gore. But he didn't just work in Gore, he worked also down here at Kew. He'd work Mondays through Thursday mornings in Gore. He would have done 3 operating lists and two clinics in that time. Then he'd drive down to Invercargill, do a varicose vein clinic in the morning, an operating list the next morning, varicose vein list Thursday afternoon, operating list Friday morning, another clinic, and then go back to Gore for the weekend. So, keep him busy and doing a lot of work, a lot of good work, and that's been the byword as far as Murray Pfeifer and his surgical service. Another interesting tidbit I found out was that Joss Hobson, where's Joss? There we are, Joss. Joss, who's currently administrative assistant in the surgery department here, was Murray's first surgical secretary in Gore. So, well done, Joss. So, after 9 months doing these double jobs at Gore and Invercargill, Murray came down to Invercargill permanently, and so from June 81 through until December the 11th, 2020, that's today, has seen Murray's stellar surgical career here in Southland as a general surgeon, and really as a sort of a surgeon in general, as a vascular surgeon, covering urology, dealing with acute neurosurgery. In Gore, he pinned fractured necks of femur and rotted femurs, because he'd done that as a registrar, and somebody needed to do it. He later became a breast surgeon, lead breast surgeon for Breast Screen Aotearoa, when that got established with National Breast Screening. In fact, it was at that time that Murray and I, because I was doing a similar course in Dunedin, a general surgeon, doing vascular surgery, and then later shifting more to doing breast surgery, we went on a couple of jaunts. We had one to Palm Springs, which was rather fun, to a breast meeting there. Played tennis on Andreas Agassi's own home court. We're riding on Western horses. Do you know that American horses, the Western horses, when you try and stop them, pull on the reins, they actually go backwards. It's a little bit like trying to drive a vehicle with the controls reversed. Anyway, and we also met once in Florence, and we talked with Megan this evening about how we met Murray in a Florentine restaurant one night, and he'd been shopping on instructions from Megan to buy a specific item of jewellery on the far side of the Ponte Vecchio, and we liked it so much that the following day Helen and I went there, bought some other things, and Helen has an almost identical bracelet. So, but being a surgeon and providing surgical care to a community is more than just cutting and stitching, no matter how important that is to the individual patient. There's the part of professionalism in surgery in general, of teaching, training, of leadership, advocacy, and always by leading by example. And Murray has excelled in these areas, and we can all, colleagues, friends, and community, be justly proud of him. At Southland Hospital, Murray's been a member and or chairman of almost all the committees that clinicians could be on. Senior medical staff, postgraduate committee, infection control, drugs and therapeutics. Do you know anything about drugs and therapeutics? Quality assurance, theatre committee, and we've been told he actually applied for, sometime in the 90s, the role of clinical director in surgery, and has held that until today. So finally, dropping the mantle. He's been intern supervisor. He was been an executive member, at one time chairman of the Southland branch of the New Zealand Medical Association, executive member, deputy chairman, national delegate of the Cancer Society. He's been a member and chairman of the New Zealand board of the College of Surgeons, executive member and chair of the New Zealand Association of General Surgeons, an examiner in general surgery for the College of Surgeons, and he's been recognised for the quality of his work and his contribution. He was awarded the RACS Rural Surgeons Award in 2013, acknowledging significant contribution to surgery in a rural or provincial setting in Australia and New Zealand. That's one award per annum for the whole of Australia and New Zealand. Well done, Murray. And I mentioned his teaching and training. In 2017, he was awarded the Dennis Sumner Award. Dennis was a sort of almost legendary Auckland surgeon who had been in my class as well, and very much involved in teaching and in training within the college. And this Dennis Sumner Award was chosen by the surgical trainees for the Teacher of the Year for his enthusiasm and expertise in clinical teaching. So thank you, Murray, for what you've contributed, and some of your trainees have come back tonight to honour you. Well done. And then, as Tim has mentioned, his sense of community, his advocacy for people who can't speak strongly for themselves, this is all epitomised by his efforts and contributions to the inception and the establishment of the Southland Charitable Hospital, and marked by his role as chair of the Charitable Hospital Trust. So thank you, Murray, from the community for that, and for your continuing contribution to surgical well-being, even if you perhaps are not going to be holding the knife or wielding the needle holder. But wait, there's more. We all know that behind every great man, well, we shouldn't say behind, but beside, and sometimes in front, alongside the whole journey, the surgical journey has been Jan. Jan was a nurse, and I think they met sometime during the registrar years, house surgeon registrar years, but have been together for a long time. And it's so good to have you here, and so that we as a group can acknowledge the huge contribution you, Jan, have made to Murray's surgical career and his community involvement. Thank you, Jan. There's another thing about the family that's important too, because of the degree of involvement of surgeons to their craft and to their patients and their surgical activity, often by default, the raising of the children, bringing up of the children, falls on the wife. I know that in my family, in my situation, I expect it was much the same as yours, and it's great that your three, Megan and Dale and John, are here tonight, and I'm sure that they would echo those comments. So thank you, Jan, for supporting Murray, for bringing up such great kids, and for allowing Murray to give so much time to community and to surgery. So on behalf of the Southern District Health Board, and on behalf of your friends and colleagues, and from me personally, Murray, thank you. And as the Gospel says, well done, good and faithful servant, enter into your rest. Well, maybe the rest of your life, your retirement, well done.
Thanks for that, Stephen. It's pretty good role model to aspire to, seeing Murray there. So when I get to his, surely he's only 68. He's grinning. To have the skills and being an elder statesman in health would be a great goal for all of us to achieve as we work our way through the system. Right, so we've got some gifts now. Jan, could you please come up to the front? And Murray, your turn. Could you please come up? Rather special gift here. This is Panamu. It's been blessed by Andrea Jerry, and it has a name, Tokono Ko, which means man of importance, big name, importantly, leader. And it's been designed and carved by Nathan Jerry. But wait, there's more. What was that, sorry? Oh.
So this is a contribution from everybody here for plus $1,200 towards your dark room.
Oh, wow.
So you're going from the thin room to a dark room.
As long as I stay away from the dark side.
So this is towards your
Oh, that is wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Because you've had so many farewells. Sorry, shit, derision. Because you've had so many farewells, this is on behalf of the DHB. So it's just they'll help you towards Christmas.
You don't get to talk yet. You go, no.
So I better go and sit down.
You go and sit down. Thanks. I didn't think anybody did darkroom stuff anymore. I thought we all had digital printers sitting in a corner. But dark arts, literally. Right, Paul Sampson, could you please come up? Thank you, Tim, for letting me go first. I've got a little speech here prepared. I first commenced with Murray last century, November 1999, where I was a junior doctor working for Murray, like many of you who are here also have done over the years. After discussions with Murray during my surgical training, I changed my subspecialty interest from colorectal to breast and endocrine and returned to Southland over 10 years ago to replace Murray. I did a terrible job. Back then we had a department of 4 surgeons. We're now up to 6 surgeons. We've employed another person to replace Murray because I failed so badly. Murray, I feel now is the time for me to make some confessions to you. I have taken ownership of one of your common intraoperative statements whilst doing breast surgery. And if there is untoward bleeding, I will exclaim, shit and derision. I've also rather taken a liking to your gold-plated medicine-born scissors. And it was me behind that unfortunate event at Wardround, Saturday morning, 2001. You have a tremendous nature in conversing freely with patients and partaking in storytelling. However, junior doctors really want the Saturday morning round to be quick. I sent the trainee intern around the ward to remove all the chairs from the rooms. So there would be no opportunity for you to sit down and prolong the chats with patients. Unfortunately, a patient shuffled over on the bed to allow you to sit down. And the combined weight from this broke the expensive hydraulic mechanism on the bed. I have since apologised to Lynn Smith, charge nurse, but I've never fessed up to you. Murray, I've been very fortunate in being able to work with you as a consultant colleague over the last 11 years. In both the public and private practice capacity, you have been collaborative, respectful and supportive. You are a mentor and a leader to me and will continue in that role in our activities for the Southland Charity Hospital. It is far beyond me to be able to define the legacy you leave behind. However, you have inspired me in your relentless service provision. Service to Southland Hospital, service to Southern Cross Hospital, service to surgical training, service to the New Zealand general surgery community, service to the Australasian mycology surgeons, and most importantly and significantly, service to the people of Southland. You have taught me the importance of natural outcomes and how a cautious middle ground approach to delicate matters will not end up inflaming situations or generating your quote, more heat than light. To me, you have set the standard for collaborative and respectful mentoring of future doctors and surgeons of New Zealand. I wish you and Jan all the very best for a thoroughly earned and deserved retirement. As a thanks for my wife and family, I would like to, however, send you back to school at some stage next year, and we'll sign you up to complete a 3-day course at the Southern Institute of Technology. The course is titled Barista Training. And although you already make a very good cup of coffee, I am sure they'll be even better after this course. We all look forward to perhaps sampling one of your coffees and catching up on many shared stories in times to come. And as current supervisor of training, I've received correspondence from the New Zealand Association of General Surgery and the Selection National Training Committee. And there's a voucher here, Murray, $300 being provided
for meat from Gourmet Direct and comment. Dear Murray, all the best for your retirement. Thanks for all you have done for NZAGs and surgical training in New Zealand. Wishing you many happy years ahead from all NZAGs members and staff. There's also some flowers here for you as well.
Roger Wandless.